Will tariffs bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States, or will they actually drive jobs away? I'm going to use a real life example to explain to you what they don't explain. This example will clarify everything so you can make your own decision, or it just might make you feel a little more confused. I picked this beautiful cucumber from my garden the other day. I always think to myself when I harvest the cucumber, a couple tomatoes, a few strawberries from my garden, how much did it actually save me on my grocery bill? I found this flyer from my local Walmart and they had cucumbers on sale. It got me thinking about tariffs and how this affects the cost of the products we buy every day. If indeed tariffs do affect the cost of the products we buy. I mean, some people say the cost of tariffs is going to be paid for by other countries like China, or the companies themselves will be eating the tariffs. And still others say it's us, the consumers, who will have to pay the cost of these tariffs. So today I'm going to be talking about cucumbers and tariffs. When I look at the Walmart flyer, I saw the cucumbers were selling for $2.84 a pound right now. I live in Canada and this flyer is from a Canadian Walmart, so that $2.84 a pound is shown in Canadian dollars. Well, we have Walmarts in Canada. I want you to remember Walmart is an American company. Have a look at this flyer. Notice the descriptions. Notice all the products show where the products were actually grown. For example, if you read the flyer, you'll see that the baby cut carrots were grown in either Canada or the US. The cucumbers, well, they were grown in British Columbia, Canada. And again, remember, all these prices shown are in Canadian dollars. So when we do our comparison, we need to convert the prices into US dollars because the American dollar is worth a lot more than the Canadian dollar. When we convert these prices into US dollars, they'll actually be quite a bit lower than the prices shown. When I look at the Walmart website, I see that the regular price of these cucumbers is $2.97 per pound. Again, that's in Canadian dollars. Let's check out the US Walmart website. I found a package of mini cucumbers. The package contains 16 ounces, which is equal to a pound, and the price shown is $3.86 in US dollars. So I'm pretty confident we're going to be comparing basically the same items. The only difference is we don't know where the cucumbers were grown that are shown on the US Walmart website. I did a Google search and found that the US gets most of their fresh cucumbers from domestic production, places like Georgia, Florida, and California. And the United States also imports quite a few cucumbers from Mexico and to a lesser extent from Canada. So let's do a price comparison. The cost on the US website is $3.86 per pound. The cost on the Canadian website is $2.97 per pound, and the price at Walmart is $2.84 per pound. So let's do the currency conversion. Okay, the cost at Walmart shown on their US website was $3.86. When we look at the regular price of cucumbers on the Canadian Walmart website, we see that the cost is $2.97 in Canadian dollars, and this is equivalent to $2.16 in American money. And the sale price is $2.84 Canadian, which converts to $2.07 in US dollars. So when we look at the regular price of cucumbers from Walmart, looking at both websites, the price in Canada is $2.16, and the price in America is $3.86 per pound. This means the cost is 44% less in Canada. And if I look at my local Walmart flyer here in Canada, and we convert the sale price of $2.84 Canadian into US dollars, the cost is $2.07 in American money. That makes the price 46% cheaper in Canada compared to the United States. In other words, if an American consumer could come to Canada to buy their cucumbers using American dollars, they would be saving as much as 46%. That's almost half price. Now, I said I was going to talk about how tariffs could bring jobs back to the United States, and I'm going to use this example. Before I get to that, if you're enjoying my video, please click the like button and maybe even consider subscribing. That'd be awesome. As a new YouTuber, it really helps me out. So let's get to my example. In Canada, we have a pickle brand called Bick's that makes all kinds of pickles and hot dog relish. Bick's Pickles is almost an institution when it comes to pickles here in Canada. Ever since I was a kid, I remember whenever I opened the fridge, I'd always see a jar of Bick's Pickles on the door. Now, this probably doesn't mean anything to those of you living in the United States because Bick's Pickles aren't sold in the US. But Bick's Pickles are not made in Canada. They're made in the United States. Well, how can this be, you might ask? Made in the States, yet you in the United States can't even buy them? Well, to explain that, let's go back in history. Bick's emerged in 1951 in the Toronto area when local farmers George and Lena Bick and their sons Walter and Thomas began to pickle cucumbers and produce pickles from their farm in Ontario. In 2004, Bick's Pickles was purchased by Smuckers, which is an American company. Smuckers is a huge company which was founded in 1897, and they're headquartered in Orrville, Ohio. In 2010, Smuckers announced the closure of the Ontario Pickle Factory, which brought an end to Bick's Pickles production in Canada. The Bick's factory in Canada closed and moved to the United States, which resulted in a loss of 150 factory jobs here in Canada, according to Maclean's magazine. The American company said the move was needed to provide greater manufacturing and sourcing flexibility, which resulted in Bick's products being imported into Canada from the US instead of being produced here locally. As an American, you might be thinking, who cares about Canadian jobs? We brought back jobs to America. America's strong, and who cares about Canadian jobs as long as we're moving jobs to America? Well, hold on to that thought, because I'm going to get back to it. And while you do that, think about how you felt when you saw thousands of manufacturing jobs move from America overseas to China, India, and so forth. Remember, we're your next door neighbors, your best friends. You know, the ones that let 38 American planes with 6,500 American passengers land in Gander, Newfoundland during 9/11. Gander's a small town which only had a population of 10,000 people living there at the time, and all of a sudden, this small town was welcoming 6,500 Americans in a matter of hours. Well, that's a story of its own. So let's get back to my example. What was happening in the United States back in 2010? Well, Donald Trump wasn't yet president, not even for the first time. Barack Obama was the president of the United States, and the U.S. was under the leadership of a Democratic government, not a Republican government, when these jobs were lost from Canada and moved to the United States. We had a free trade agreement, it's called NAFTA, between Canada and the United States. What this means is there were zero tariffs being charged on most goods moving between Canada and the United States, and Mexico, of course. So under free trade with no tariffs, we saw these jobs move from Canada to the US. And the Canadian factory making Canadian products for Canadians closed and moved to the US. So under free trade with no tariffs, we saw these jobs move from Canada to the US. And a Canadian factory making Canadian products for Canadians closed and moved to the US, where this product, which isn't even sold in the US, was being made in the US and shipped back and sold to Canadians. But hey, at least we were still selling the cucumbers and aluminum jar lids to the new American owner of this formerly Canadian company. And recently we saw Premier Doug Ford on the news dumping out a bottle of Crown Royal whiskey as the American parent company, Diegs, I don't know if I said that right, moved production of this Canadian whiskey to the US. And this is a business environment where we have Trump tariffs under a Republican government. Yeah, it never feels good when you see 150 of your neighbors lose their jobs at the pickle factory, or 200 factory workers about to lose their jobs at the whiskey factory. So let's have a look at these American Canadian pickles on the Walmart website. Now on the Canadian Walmart website, you see that a jar of baby dill pickles sells for $5.97 Canadian. When I check the website, I see Walmart's house brand, Great Value, sells a similar jar for $4.18. These jars are the same size, both baby dills, so basically we're comparing similar items. The Great Value house brand by Walmart sells for $1.79 less than Bick's. The Bick's pickles are 43% more than the Great Value house brand. So you might ask yourself, why is there such a big difference? The house brand is almost half the price of the Bick's pickles. So what happened? Well, the trouble began when the US imposed tariffs on Canada's goods earlier this year. In response, Canada hit back with a 25% counter tariff on cucumbers and gherkins, key ingredients for pickles. So tariffs are being charged on the Canadian cucumbers, which were shipped to the US and now re-entering Canada, not as cucumbers, but as pickles. And you might have heard about the aluminum tariffs? Well, the lids on the jars are also tariffed because they're made of aluminum. It's all pretty confusing. The new tariffs are making the cross-border flow of goods more expensive. We're seeing Bick's Pickles experience approximately a 25% drop in sales over the last 3 months. This has been reported by InsideHilton.com. This decline is a result of Canadian counter tariffs on U.S. goods, which increased the price of Bick's products. and some retailers aren't even stocking them anymore. Here you can see a lot of shelves are empty in this grocery store and there's no Bick's pickles available. This is quite common throughout Canada right now at almost every grocery store. The Buy Canadian sentiment is also contributing to shoppers avoiding Bick's pickles in favor of local alternatives. When big business purchased Bick's, they forgot that they had also purchased the goodwill and brand loyalty. They forgot about the little guy. They forgot about the community. Hey you, the billionaires who purchased Crown Royal, pay attention. Brand loyalty, goodwill, you know? So recently, Canada has announced that it's removing the retaliatory tariffs imposed on the United States. So hopefully the cucumbers will be able to cross the border tariff-free as they did before this tariff war started, making Bick's pickles more affordable in Canada again. There will most likely still be some tariffs on the aluminum lids though. What a mess. So what does this mean to Canadian consumers? Are Canadians going to be forced to purchase their long-loved Canadian tradition of Bick's pickles from an American company made with American cucumbers and packaged in American jars with American lids? Great, some of our Americans are probably saying, more jobs in America, make America great again. Well, the answer isn't automatic. Remember I showed you the Walmart Great Value brand of pickles? They also make relish too. Let's have a look and see where those products are made. Well, look at the label. There it is in very large print. Product of India. Now, I bought Great Value Walmart brand pickles and relish on many occasions, and taste and quality, it's amazing. It's great. We can purchase pickles from India cheaper than the so-called Canadian pickles, which are made in America. And I've even noticed some German pickles on the shelves lately. Canada also purchases pickles from Greece and Mexico. There doesn't seem to be any winners here. Let's see. Big American company buys Canadian pickle company. Moves pickle factory to the US. Canadians lose jobs. Big American company Walmart buys cheap pickles from India. Canadians buy pickles from India. Sales of once Canadian pickles drop. Americans lose pickle jobs that were once Canadian jobs. Indian pickle factory hires new employees for good manufacturing jobs because pickle sales to Canada have skyrocketed. Wow, what just happened here? Canadians and Americans lose pickle jobs as a result of corporate greed, and Canadians buy cheaper Indian pickles. Americans won't see these cheap Indian pickles as the U.S. has high tariffs on goods from India. Oh well, it's nice to know that if you lose your manufacturing job at the pickle factory, you can always get a job at minimum wage at Walmart as a greeter. As the United States resets trading policies, we're going to see many changes in the products we consume every day. That's simply the new reality. Hey, if you enjoyed my video, check this one out as well.